Why is logic logical? Think about it for a minute. What does it tell us about the nature of reality, of being, that we live in a universe where logic works at all? If logic works, this tells us that logic is a reflection of how the universe itself operates. Reality determines its own constraints. Logic is its abstract grammar. Logic is a tool to traverse the coherent causal structure of reality. So-called randomness is simply causation that we cannot afford to track. We speak of probability when a system is too complex for us to keep accurate records of its behavior. The implication is that wherever logic fails us, this becomes a detector for broken ontological commitments. When logic fails, our model of reality is flawed. But what about free will? Free will is real, and it is also deterministic. Free will is deterministic. This is a topic I've already covered, and I'll link to that video above if you would like to understand how that seeming paradox resolves. In fact, wherever we see a paradox, this shows us that our interpretation is wrong, or at least muddled. So, do you feel any resistance to thinking about reality with a view that it is strictly logical? If so, why do you think it might feel threatening to consider a perfectly logical reality? If reality has a determinate causal structure, where nothing escapes cause and effect, this means that things can be fundamentally known. If your survival strategy or your social status depend on fuzzy accounting, plausible deniability, or misattribution, you will register a self-consistent universe as a threat. Anyone who stutters under status threat, anyone who depends on ambiguity. When everything can be theoretically accounted for, parasitic strategies face potential exposure. If logic is a faithful mirror of reality's structure, then a breakdown in logic is a diagnostic signal that our conceptual model has detached from how things actually are. When we encounter paradoxes and limits in science or philosophy, such as certain interpretations of quantum mechanics or absolute infinities, this tells us that our underlying premises are flawed. If a description of reality leads to a contradiction, that description is wrong. It is often a category error. The intractable paradox is the signature of an exploitable confusion. The number of inconsistencies and competing interpretations in a given field of study provides a rough measure for how much that field has been dominated by parasites. Reality is coherent. Causation doesn't break down. Logic is a tiny model of the universe's own self-consistency. Once you understand this, you can determine precisely what problems are possible to solve. This is the algebra of admissibility, which I've also written a white paper on, and I'll link to that in the description below if you're curious. What this ultimately means is that truth is not a matter of social consensus at all. Truth is an absolute constraint. It isn't something you can negotiate, vote on, or perform. It is a structural inevitability. Understanding truth is the alignment of your model to reality. Reality alignment is the degree to which a model preserves causal contact with the structure of reality's constraints. And this is also something that I have operationalized as an empirical, measurable system, and I'll link to that below. So what do you think? Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts about this video. Does it make you uncomfortable to consider that all of reality follows logic? Do you know people in your life who seem particularly illogical? Does this way of seeing the relationship between reality and logic help you understand why?